The arrest of a child in connection with the shooting death of a family member.
It's a horrific situation, however, very unique.
Tonight, an in-depth look at how law enforcement handles delicate cases like this one.
For the first time, Utah may criminalize the ritualistic abuse of children. We'll show you the emotional testimony today from survivors who explained why the law needs to change.
We'll take a look at some of the impressive snow and rain totals from the latest winter storm and tell you about the upcoming break in our weather in your forecast.
A $42 million scholarship soon available for Utah families, but is it enough? I'll explain the Utah Fits All Scholarship and how it's on the verge of potentially getting a big boost.
The season is underway for Real Salt Lake, and what an opener in Miami against Lionel Messi. Can RSL get the win, or will it be one of the greatest soccer players of all time coming out on top?
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Kelly Chapman. Police still investigating what led a 9-year-old to being arrested after the shooting death of their 32-year-old family member last week.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold did some searching and researching into what could happen next in a unique case like this. He joins us live in studio tonight. Chris.
Well, Bob, Kelly, today I spoke with a retired deputy chief of police and a local criminal defense attorney, both saying this case is not only horrific, but something they don't see every day.
In the 34 years I've been directly involved in criminal justice, I haven't heard of somebody this young.
Chris Bertram is a retired deputy chief of police and a private investigator.
I think the emotional part of this investigation for law enforcement and their investigators is a little more than a normal investigation.
Bertram is speaking about an incident that happened last Friday in Tooele. Police told Fox 13 News on Tuesday they were called just before 7:30 that night to the area of 380 West Mill Creek Way for reports of an unconscious 32-year-old man. Through their investigation, they learned he had been shot once in the head. He later died at a Salt Lake area hospital. A 9-year-old child who police say is related to that victim was arrested. Bertram is not connected with this case, but explained what could happen next in the investigation.
The investigation will expand as to how the child got the gun if it wasn't, a gun, a family gun or a gun within the residence. Tooele City is going to use their resources. They're going to reach out to the state, because I know they've got a good connection with the state. State forensics are going to come out and do the crime scenes.
As well as some other unique factors.
Because of the age of the child, interviewing the child as a potential suspect or even a witness will require a guardian to be there.
From a legal standpoint, Fox 13 News spoke with Clayton Sims, a local defense attorney, about what could potentially come next for the child.
There is jurisdiction over an individual who's 9 years old. So the juvenile court has jurisdiction over somebody who's under the age of 18, but over the age of 8.
Under state statutes and codes, Sims says the child arrested won't be tried as an adult if this case were to go to court.
They won't be sent to the adult court because that individual's under the age of 14.
With a complex case and investigation like this, Bertram says information for the public may be hard to come by.
The fact that it's a juvenile, a lot of things that are going to go on in this investigation potentially go on in juvenile court or private.
Well, Tooele police are continuing their investigation into this incident. But again, right now there's a lot of information we don't know. They have not released the gender of the child, the exact relation of the child to the family member who was killed, as well as if or where this child is currently being held, and if they're going to be charged with anything in this case.
Now, Chris, you mentioned that if the child is, if this is found not to be an accident, you said the child would never be tried as an adult. What would happen to them?
Yeah, so in speaking with Clayton Sims, he told me that they would remain in the juvenile system and that they could stay in the juvenile system and be in detention up until they're 25 years old. That is under a rule that Sims says was changed here in Utah just over the past few years.
Extremely difficult story. Chris Arnold live in studio tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have an update on embattled State Board of Education member Natalie Klein. Fox 13 News has obtained an email from Klein to the Canyon School Board today responding to their condemnation of her last week. It says, "Your resolution contains baseless claims and factual inaccuracies and does not explain the legal basis for its accusations against me," said Klein. Your misleading resolution negatively impacts several facets of my life and will hang over me indefinitely. She goes on to say, also, one can assume my opponent will use your resolution against me in my bid for re-election. Klein plans to file an appeal and ask the board to respond by this evening. Canyons tells Fox 13 News they have responded. We're waiting to gain access to that response.
Former Utah Red Rocks gymnastics coach Tom Fardon is getting quite a bit of money through his separation agreement with the University of Utah. Our content partners at the Salt Lake Tribune report Fardon is being paid $371,000 through April 2025. He left his coaching job back in November after allegations of abuse from former gymnasts and staffers. Fardon's health insurance and retirement benefits are also being covered by the U through April of 25 or until he finds another job.
A family is suing the parent company of Park City Mountain Resort after a 10-year-old girl dangled, then fell 30 feet from a chairlift. The lawsuit says the girl and her friends had trouble pulling down the safety bar while boarding the Iron Mountain Express chairlift. That's when she slipped out. The family says her father tried to catch her, but both were injured when she came down. They claim the ski resort was negligent in failing to properly secure their daughter and failing to properly train its employees.
The Salt Lake County DA's office has filed criminal charges against a woman for her role in a deadly crash 14 months ago. The crash happened at 600 North, 900 West in Salt Lake City. It left 2 people injured and 61-year-old Rosa Elena Mendez dead. Court documents indicate 19-year-old Easton Tuller was impaired while driving nearly 100 miles an hour as she ran a red light and then hit Mendez. West Valley City Police arrested Tuller last Friday. She made her first court appearance today on manslaughter charges. She is being held in the Salt Lake County Jail.
In Taylorsville, a man is in custody tonight after a chase led to him barricading himself inside a house. It started at about 5:40 this evening at the Walmart in town. Police say the suspect tried to steal merchandise and took off when officers confronted him. He ended up crashing into a pole, and a DPS helicopter followed him to a house in the area of 49th South, 37th West. He was in that home for 45 minutes before police persuaded him to come out at about 6:30. He's now behind bars at the Salt Lake County Jail. The Utah legislature is moving forward with a bill that would define ritualistic abuse of children. If it passes, the bill would place ritualistic abuse into law for the first time in Utah history.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets was at the Capitol this evening listening to very emotional testimony from survivors.
With tears in her eyes and her voice shaking, Kara decided to testify about the girl in this picture.
I'm speaking up for her. She's the bravest little girl. And if I could go back in time, I would hug her and tell her she is beautiful.
Her testimony convinced a panel of lawmakers to move forward with a bill that would criminalize ritualistic sex abuse. Many of the details surrounding that type of abuse are so graphic, we can't even describe it on television.
This is horrific, heinous, vile conduct. I had a survivor tell me that as a child, she was told that they had planted a bomb inside of her, and that if she told anyone, they could detonate the bomb. I mean, we might say that's ridiculous, but as a child, how would you ever know? There is a general culture in child sexual abuse that it's bad to tell. Someone will hurt you if you tell. They'll hurt your family members if you tell. They won't believe you if you tell.
Chains, cannibalism, child prostitution.
She says the girl in the picture didn't tell either, but today she had the biggest audience of her life. See, Kara was holding her own picture with a handful of other survivors backing her up.
Today was a victory for my little girl self that had her voice stolen, and no more.
There's been a lot of talk about ritual abuse in Utah over the past 2 years. You might remember this man, Brett Bluth, from an interview we did in 2022 after the Utah County Sheriff's Office received more than 130 tips of ritualistic sex abuse.
Hypnosis was a big part of it.
Torture therapy, suffocation therapy, rape therapy.
He says he was assaulted by his therapist, David Hamblin, who was arrested and charged on suspicion of similar crimes involving other alleged victims. Representative Ken Ivory says cases happen more than we realize, which is why the law needs to change.
You know, I'd kind of heard a little bit some of the things in the news. It wasn't really something fully in my awareness, but now I've got a constituent that this is her story. She just started to cry and she said, they believe me. The legislature believed me.
That was Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets with that report. The bill will now move on to the Senate.
Now to two other big developments on Utah's Capitol Hill. A big bill regarding Major League Baseball was introduced in the Utah House today. Representative Ryan Wilcox's $900 million bill would start the process to bring a team to Salt Lake City and build a stadium across from the State Fair Park.
$2 billion alone just for the franchise fee, just to get the team here. The stadium itself is another $1.8 billion, what we're talking about. And on the state side is including a 1.5% increase in the TRT tax, we call it. All right, what that applies to is primarily those that are coming in and staying in at hotels from out of state.
That means taxpayers will not be directly building a stadium, but visitors will. That's something political leaders have supported.
Another major sports bill has been filed in the legislature. It would create a sports and entertainment district in Salt Lake City. That is for an NHL and NBA arena. As you know, Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith has been pursuing an NHL team. This bill would help provide financial support, but blocks a direct taxpayer subsidy. The bill is being fast-tracked. It will be heard in a Senate committee tomorrow.
Busy night on Utah's Capitol Hill, and the weather is, stormy tonight?
Yeah, it was a little bit stormy and it's starting to really calm down, which is a great welcome change after the past couple of days. It's been pretty wet around here. Here's our sunset from tonight. You can see the clouds, gorgeous colors out there with all that moisture in the atmosphere. Turns the sky orange and yellow. Our Mountain camera shows some fresh snow on the ground. And right now it's actually still pretty mild outside. Temperature is 40 degrees here in Salt Lake. It's 35 in Ogden and 40 degrees in Provo. Still snowing and raining in a few select locations. So we still have a little bit of light rain along I-15 and mixing in with some light snow. So north of Salt Lake, over by Ogden, up near just south of Brigham City and Tremont in there. So we've had some impressive snow totals around the Eden and Powder Mountain area, which we'll talk about a little bit later in our main weather segment. But we still have some scattered showers around in southwestern Utah as well. But things are starting to wind down, which is great. And then we'll start to get those clear skies and back to some much needed sunshine tomorrow. We still have our winter weather advisories through about 10 p.m. tonight, expecting again just those scattered areas with a little bit more snow and some rain in about the next 45 minutes. That should be really wrapping up. So we do have calmer weather moving in, and we're going to return to some sunshine in the forecast, which is great news, and mild weather for this weekend. So coming up in our main weathercast, we'll talk about the impressive snow totals from the past 72 hours.
I have not gone one day without crying. Because I miss my daughter.
A mother voices her frustration after the man arrested in connection with her daughter's death has yet to be charged more than a year later.
They'd both be 5 and almost turning 5. And they're not here.
Plus, the man accused of killing 2 boys in Eagle Mountain in 2022 was back in court today. What one of the boys' mothers had to say about the evidence presented.
And I'll have an in-depth update on where the Utah Fits All Scholarship stands a year after it passed the legislature.
The high school basketball playoffs continue. We'll hit the hardwood to see which teams are advancing to the next rounds.
A new bill in the legislature could nullify prenuptial agreements in cases of homicide. West Valley City Representative Brett Garner's bill is partly in response to the murder of Eric Richens. The lawmaker says he knew him. Richens' wife, Corey, is facing murder charges. Prosecutors accuse the Park City author, who wrote a book on grief, of killing her husband to collect on his estate.
Spouse is convicted, not charged, but convicted of murdering their other spouse, that a judge may choose to invalidate the prenuptial agreement.
The bill was just introduced.
The House voted along party lines to pass a bill that relicenses abortion clinics in Utah.
There's not a lot that this changes as far as current enforced law, but there is a lot that this changes in helping to simplify the case that is currently before the courts.
The legislature previously passed a law stripping clinics like Planned Parenthood of their licenses. That was put on hold before the courts. The Republican supermajority in the House believes this could impact the lawsuits over abortion rights in Utah. Critics accuse lawmakers of interfering with those cases. The bill now goes to the Senate.
Utah Senator Mike Lee paid a visit to the legislature today. He met with House Democrats who asked him why he won't support aid to Ukraine.
I would want it to be focused on military aid rather than, for example, in this aid package, it's got $8 billion that would go to the Ukrainian government. Maybe $7.75 billion going to the Ukrainian government that could be used to pay the salaries of civilian employees, bureaucrats, and other workers of the Ukrainian government. That's an important thing, but that's not our thing, and that's concerning. Another thing that I would want in such a package before I could consider working on it is more auditability than we've got now.
Senator Lee says he also wants in that bill support for the southern border.
Well, good evening. I'm Fox 13 meteorologist Dina Friedman with your forecast. Much of our active weather is moving out. We still have a little bit left north of Salt Lake City. Pretty view tonight from the Great Salt Lake. What a gorgeous sunset as the cloud cover began to break up a little bit. Right now we still have some cloudy skies. Temperature about 40 degrees. Light winds out of the south. Still pretty humid with all that moisture in the air. Here's a current look at that satellite and radar picture now. We still have some showers north of Salt Lake City. So over by Ogden, getting a little bit of snow mixing in there with the rain. And by St. George as well. Impressive snow totals in the past 72 hours. Here's what we got. Powder Mountain, the big winner, over 2 feet of snow at 27 inches. Alta about 20 inches. Same with Snow Basin, and a few other places got really nice snow as well. So nearer to Powder Mountain in some of the valleys through there, Liberty, Utah at 16.2 inches of snow, Randolph at 14 inches, and Logan up in the Cache Valley, no slouch, at 7 inches. And a lot of other people got some impressive rain totals as well. So liquid precipitation, Ogden over 2 inches of liquid. Same with Cottonwood Heights, over an inch there. Salt Lake City, 0.63. We have had a lot of liquid precipitation this month. We're actually under on our snow total, but way over on the rain total, which is really interesting. Cedar City, about 1/3 of an inch. Now tonight, things are starting to really dry out there, and conditions are improving a little bit. Temperature of about 40 degrees here in Salt Lake, 35 in Ogden, and 40 in Provo. We're still at 43 in Green River. So you can see a lot of places, it's just a little bit warm. So as that precipitation comes down, we'll see some of that melting on the way, of course, and the higher elevation snow. 48 degrees there in St. George. We still have that winter weather advisory issued by the National Weather Service and the winter storm warning. That's for these counties highlighted here until 10 o'clock. So about another 45 minutes, and then these warnings and advisories will be allowed to expire, and then we'll just have some shower precipitation until about midnight tonight. Here's the current situation. There's a little bit of that light snow band moving north of Salt Lake City, so over by Ogden, seeing some precipitation now, and on the west side of Salt Lake. So North Salt Lake, and this will drift across along Parley Summit, so Park City, if you are heading up there and going along I-80, that could get a little dicey in about the next hour. So some showery precipitation around, and then some scattered showers in St. George as well. So we'll be continuing with a high pressure scenario in the next few days, so that will quiet things down quite a bit, and we should have more calm weather moving in. So overnight, the clouds will start to clear, a few scattered showers around, down to about 32 tonight and up to 47 tomorrow. Sunshine will be out in the afternoon in Park City and in Salt Lake, up to 47 there, in the upper 50s in St. George. Nice weekend in southern Utah. And then our next big storm moves in Monday into Tuesday, and that one's going to be really exciting because it has a very potent cold front. So temperatures will be in the 40s and 50s. Nice weekend here in northern Utah, and then some rain and snow at the beginning of next week. We'll be right back.
The mother of a woman killed in a storage unit fire last year is frustrated after the man arrested in connection with her daughter's death has still not been charged. Morgan K. Harris was 27 years old when she and her dog were killed in that storage unit fire in Murray on February 18, 2023. Her boyfriend, Alex Wardell, was arrested for negligent homicide and kidnapping in connection to her death. But over a year later, charges have still not been filed against him. He is currently serving prison sentences unrelated to Morgan's death and has not been issued a release date.
Since Wardell's in prison, I've kind of been able to just take a deep breath and relax, knowing at least he's behind bars. It is frustrating that the investigation was over, I don't remember, like over a month ago. And I was told that the DA has all the information and I would be contacted. And I haven't been, and I have no explanation as to why.
In a statement shared with Fox 13 News, Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill said, quote, "The amount of time the screening process takes varies for each case. Factors that can affect the screening process include, but are not limited to, the evidence that is available, witnesses, and additional investigation that prosecutors may request from law enforcement investigators." As Morgan's mother, Loris Williamson, continues to wait for justice, she is pleading for more legislation from lawmakers and more action from everyday Utahns to help keep domestic violence victims safe.
The preliminary hearing continued today for the man accused of driving high on meth and killing two 3-year-olds in Eagle Mountain. Hunter Jackson and Odin Ratliff died playing outside in May of 2022. 27-year-old Kent Cody Barlow is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, as well as 1 count of possession or use of a controlled substance. Today, a forensic technician admitted a mistake in handling evidence in the case. Law enforcement also explained the corral roof collapse was what killed the boys, not a direct hit from Barlow's car.
This only happened because of Kent Barlow's choices. That's all that matters. Hunter and Odin would both still be here. They'd both be 5 and almost turning 5. And they're not here.
Hunter's mother says the most emotional part for her in court today was listening to the witness who discovered a meth pipe at the crash site. Barlow was originally charged with manslaughter, but those charges were increased last year.
$8,000 for every Utah student.
There are just better opportunities out there for a lot of kids.
It's called the Utah Fits All Scholarship, but will it really fit every Utah family?
You know, a lot of families, they just can't afford it. They can't make it work.
I hope there's enough for everybody.
The demand is here and the funding is there, so let's just make it work.
Why this new opportunity may not be big enough for everyone, but that soon could change.
Parents should have these tools available to them.
Next.
A little more than a year ago, House Bill 215, the Utah Fits All Scholarship, was passed by the legislature, which was a monumental win for school choice advocates.
The bill appropriates money to Utah students who do not take part in public education to offset some expenses of private school tuition, homeschool, or other alternative learning models. I have been following the Utah Fits All Scholarship for the past year, and tonight I'm going to tell you just how large the interest is, how many students will benefit, and how a massive financial boost may soon make the program available to a lot more families. Inside the Utah State Capitol Rotunda, hundreds of students, families, and private school administrators singing praises to a piece of legislation passed over a year ago.
What was so important about this policy was making sure that parents and kids are in the driver's seat.
That's Representative Candace Perucci, co-sponsor of HB 215 that was signed into law during the 2023 legislative session. An education bill that carried $200 million in teacher salary increases and an appropriation of $42 million students could use on private school, homeschool, micro school, or a series of other blended learning structures.
There are just better opportunities out there.
Something Tamara Adamson sees as a monumental opportunity for her 5 daughters.
There's not a perfect fit at public schools always.
Saying a private school education would be preferred, but simply not attainable for some.
A lot of families They just can't afford it. They can't make it work.
Mom of 4, Elisa Ludlam, agrees.
It's so important for every parent to make their own choices, what's best for their kids.
The passage of House Bill 215 is a game changer when it comes to educational expenses outside the public school system. The $42 million funded by the state to the Utah Fits All Scholarship Program breaks down to an $8,000 scholarship for each K-12 student who was granted the award through an application process available for the upcoming 2024-25 academic year.
I know we're going to try to be the first ones to apply, so I hope there's enough for everybody.
With 3 kids in tow, Otto Dubon raises a good point. Is there enough money for everyone? The program is currently funded to support just 5,000 students throughout the entire state.
I mean, I didn't know that.
Far less than the program has already garnered.
We know that we need a lot more money to serve them.
Robin Bagley is the executive director of Utah Education Fits All.
We're a nonprofit advocacy organization, state-based, and our primary mission and objective is to make sure that parents and families know about the Utah Fits All Scholarship.
Their group has been a source of information for families eager to apply, keeping them up to date on application dates and requirements, while also asking parents to register their children for their records to gauge how many families could potentially go for the scholarship.
We have over 16,000 parents who've done that. That accounts for over 36,000 kids in our database.
Using the numbers provided by the advocacy group, it's a 31,000 student difference, leaving the majority of Utah students hoping for educational dollars empty-handed. The program is also not first come, first serve.
There's also 3 levels of preference, and it's based on income.
Economic status will be used in awarding which children will get the scholarship.
Lowest group gets in first.
That's going to be tough on a lot of parents.
It is. Now they know that we've been trying to demonstrate demand to increase the amount.
And those demonstrations have been working, with a major funding increase on the horizon.
And I want it to be a real option for people.
I met up with Representative Perucci outside the House of Representatives, asking her about what can be done to help more Utah families searching for other educational options outside of the public system and would rely on a scholarship to make it happen.
We did submit another funding request to increase the appropriation amount so that more students can receive it.
Along with co-sponsor Senator Kirk Cullimore, Representative Perucci tells me during the current legislative session, they asked for $150 million in additional funds for the scholarship, being negotiated down to the proposal currently on the table.
We had looked in public appropriations at $50 million, which is where you'd be roughly doubling and then some what we did last year.
That figure is not set in stone.
It still is in negotiations for sure.
But moving through the process on how much money the Utah Fits All Scholarship could be awarded and available to students for the upcoming school year.
So that goes to the Executive Appropriating Committee to make that decision.
A decision coming within weeks.
We'll know the session's last day is March 1st. We usually vote on the budget the last week.
A request that carries a lot of confidence.
I can say I do think there will be an increased amount given the support that this program has received and the overwhelming number of students who have indicated they want to do it. We really want to make sure that we're able to give a good portion of them this opportunity.
And hope for Utah families looking for the right educational fit.
I would like to see a program like this continue to grow.
So as you heard there, sometime between now and March 1st, the request for additional funding will be voted on. I, of course, will let you know the outcome. In the meantime, the application for the Utah Fits All Scholarship opens 1 week from today, next Wednesday, February 28th. It will remain open until April 15th. Award recipients will be notified on April 18th.
Coming up, groups are fighting over 300 miles of land closed to off-road vehicles in Moab. We'll show you what both sides are saying.
And old calendars are a hot topic at the Utah legislature because of a bill that would impact the state's public record laws.
Welcome back. The BLM has closed more than 300 miles of public land to off-road vehicles. But groups are fighting to change that, and they have taken their concerns to the courtroom. After the BLM closed trails to vehicles such as Jeeps and ATVs in the Labyrinth Rims, Gemini Bridges area through a travel management plan released last September, groups are trying to change that by asking a judge in federal court to grant an injunction.
We have concerns with how this plan was decided, and if he decides in our favor today, that means there's 317 miles of phenomenal off-roading routes near Moab that people will still be able to go enjoy and use while we're working through a legal process here.
The plaintiffs, which include the Blue Ribbon Coalition and other outdoor recreation groups, say this closure impacts tens of thousands of people who want to experience these trails. It also makes these viewpoints accessible to elderly and disabled people who can't hike to these spots. But the defense argues the BLM created a detailed route-by-route plan, which they feel is the most balanced.
Just a spectacular stretch of country, and there are lots of dirt roads and trails that are available for motorized use, but it's not, it shouldn't be all those roads and trails. And that's what BLM found, that motorized use on more than 300 miles of route was having real damage on the ground to cultural sites, to streamside vegetation, to wildlife, and that's why they closed those routes.
The judge has yet to make a decision, and until that happens, the roads that are already closed will stay that way.
Every day, Fox 13 News reports on information we receive from public records. Now, a bill moving through the legislature would ensure there is one document we can't read: calendars. Even though a state law already said calendars weren't public documents, the Utah State Records Committee ruled against the Attorney General, saying he mixed his official and private calendars, and so the official portion should be provided. Now, this bill from Provo Senator Kurt Bramble would clarify the public cannot see the appointment schedule of those in government.
The longstanding practice of the legislature and the statute was that daily calendars were not a record. The State Records Committee made a determination that a daily calendar should be a public record. This is not intended to address any court case, but rather clarify going forward, this is what the standard should be.
We support the Senator Bramble's great work on this bill that clarifies the legal fees and appeals, so we really appreciate that effort. Probably don't love the policy, albeit existing, on calendars.
We've been hearing some things about the President of the United States and various Hunter Biden issues being referred to as the big guy and all this sort of thing, and it's really interesting to think of how, if our calendars are inappropriately available, how we'll obscure those calendars. And all of a sudden, if you put the person's name in, you're meeting with high-powered players in the state of Utah and accused of nefarious dealings or whatever it might be.
As you heard there, if you caught it, Utah journalists were supportive of an aspect in the bill that could award attorney's fees in some records disputes. The bill passed the Senate committee 3-0. It will now move to the full Senate.
And coming up, we're taking a full look at weather, but today our high temperature did get up to 46 degrees, which is actually average, but our low was only 40. Our average low this time of year is about 30 degrees, so it was surprisingly warm. Sunrise now getting a little later at 7:14 and our sunset just after 6 o'clock. So coming up in weather, we'll take a look at those impressive 72-hour rain and snow totals. We'll be right back.
High school basketball playoffs continue with the 5A boys trying to get into the quarterfinals, and Messi in Miami took on Chicho and RSL to start the season. Let's go. The highlights are on the way.
Yeah, music and dancing on Utah's Capitol Hill, a joyous celebration of Black History Month. People gathered in the rotunda today to dance and celebrate the achievements of Utah's Black community.
The legislature is talking turf. Representative Doug Owens' bill originally restricted turf on new government construction, but it was amended in the Senate to appease turf farmers. So now it allows turf but restricts use of sprinkler systems.
Covers new government construction, so schools, city, county buildings, and
any road construction being done by any of those entities. So it says they've got to use water efficient drip systems for parking strips or center meridians and stuff like that.
Meanwhile, another bill by State Senator Mike McKell offers incentives to developers to use more water-wise landscaping.
Well, good evening. I'm Fox 13 meteorologist Tina Friedman with your forecast. We had a really fun couple of days, didn't we? Just some awesome weather out there. Really nice looking clouds, rain and snow shafts all around. Very pretty scenery everywhere from state top to bottom. 40 degrees now, still a little bit cloudy, still humid as our moisture begins to move on out of here. Here's that satellite and radar picture for you tonight. A few light snow showers around now north of Salt Lake City. And we still have that winter weather advisory till about 10 o'clock. Our other winter storm warning has now passed, and it's no longer warning criteria snow. Some lighter showers around for south and central Utah, and still a few lighter snow showers until about 10 o'clock. So just about another 20 minutes or so here. 40 degrees now in Salt Lake City. You can see it's a little warm for snow, but you're getting some rain mixing with that snow. 40 in Provo, 48 in St. George. We're at 39 degrees in Hanksville. The snow totals are pretty impressive. Powder Mountain, the big winner here at 27 inches of snow. We had 20 inches of snow at Alta and Snow Basin. Park City, 16 inches, and Liberty got about 16 inches of snow. We also saw significant snow in the Cache Valley, around 7 inches of snow there. Wow. And liquid precipitation was really impressive too. Farmington had an inch of liquid, and Ogden over 2 inches of liquid rain. That's some good stuff around here. We'll have a few days to dry out, and then we'll do it all again on Monday night and into Tuesday. Even Salt Lake City got 0.6 of an inch of precipitation. Here's the current situation. We've got a little bit of energy just scooting on through as we go through the next couple of hours. Should be out of here by about midnight, so in the next 2 or 3 hours, things will be wrapping up. So some lighter snow showers now along the I-15 corridor, some snow mixing with rain, so we'll continue to see some lighter snow and mixing with rain here in Salt Lake City on the west side of town, over by the airport, and this will all graze over into Park City and up to I-80 and onto Parley Summit in the next hour or so. So if you are heading out, do be careful out there. The roads are a little bit wet and slick, and the visibility is not so great in a few other places. Lighter showers now wrapping up in southern Utah, and overall things are starting to really clear out as we get this last piece of our system out of here. We're back to high pressure, which will be a little bit more pleasant the next couple of days. So high pressure will move in, and that ridge strengthens a little bit on Friday. The good news with this, though, it doesn't look so strong that it's going to impact our air quality significantly, meaning that we should have pretty decent air the next few days, and we'll get into some much welcome sunshine. That'll be a nice change after a lot of days of very active weather. So overnight, the showers will start to move out of here, snow mixing with rain, and moving on out tonight. That'll become partly cloudy by the morning. 32 here in Salt Lake and 38 degrees tonight in St. George. Temperatures tomorrow in the 40s and 50s all around. Going to be a nice day. Partly cloudy. Look at that. Almost 60 degrees there in St. George. You have a picture-perfect weekend in southern Utah. Good time to get down in the Red Rocks. Late February, always a winter. Temperatures here be in the upper 60s by Sunday. Not bad at all. And then the active weather moves in on Monday into Tuesday. Nice weather in northern Utah, feeling pretty mild. Temperatures will be in the 50s all weekend, upper 50s on Sunday. And then our next strong system moves in Monday into Tuesday. So we'll have a potent cold front with a chance for pretty significant rain and snow into Monday and Tuesday.
Well, the Major League Soccer season kicked off tonight with Real Salt Lake at Inter Miami FC with a star-studded roster led by Lionel Messi, one of the greatest players of all time. Messi back together with his old teammate Luis Suarez, and then there's the new RSL captain, Chicho Arango. Messi had an early free kick, put this one on frame, but RSL had Justin Glad on the post, and he heads it away. Nice save for RSL, but then later in the first half, Messi gets it ahead to Robert Taylor. He shoots and gets it past Zach McMath for the goal. Miami took a 1-0 lead in the 39th minute. RSL played much better in the second half. Should have scored. Andres Gomez shoots it wide. Andrew Brody hits it over the top. Then on the corner kick, Brian Vera's header is saved. RSL had chances but could not score a goal. Miami put the game away later in the second half. Messi with it to Suarez, to Diego Gomez. He shoots and scores. Messi with his second assist. Miami beat RSL 2-0 to start the MLS season. Second round of the 5A boys state basketball tournament. Viewmont at Highland. First quarter, Cepha Brown with the steal for the Rams. Takes it in for 2. That tied the score up at 8. Dres Jensen getting it done for the Vikings goes high off the glass. He led Viewmont with 15 points. Highland has some shooters. This is Matt Lamson. 3 is up and good. He made 3 threes, scored 15 points. Then it's Grayson Gaddis, one of his 4 threes. He had 12 points. Highland won at 67-50 to advance to play Bountiful in the quarterfinals. More 5A boys. Timpview at home against Wasatch. The Wasps down 9 at the half, but began the second half on a 9-0 run to tie it. This is Caleb Smith with the 3-pointer. But then the Thunderbirds stole all the momentum back. Aisa Galliei created it all by himself, hangs it off the window for 2. Then the 4-seed Timpview swinging it till they find Kalen Tollenstrup. Open in the corner, the Thunderbirds holding on to a 54-43 win. They get Orem next in the quarterfinals. And the BYU women resuming Big 12 play at home against TCU. Freshman point guard Amari Whining with the hesitation. Then she takes it in. All 7 of her points in the opening quarter. The Horned Frogs had 14-0 start to the season before dropping 11 of their next 13 games, needing a win tonight. Sydney Harris from deep. The Cougars down only 2 at the half. Rose Bubaker down low, scores a plus the foul, but TCU used a big third to pull away to win it by 10, dropping the Cougars to 5-10 in conference play. High school basketball is a lot of fun this time of the year.
Is.
There's some winners. There's some losers.
It's so tough, you know,
Yeah.
after such a hard season when it comes down to this. So.
State tournaments, all the championships next week.
Yeah,
There you
well,
go.
starting this weekend, right?
Yeah.
Boy, high emotions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back.
The lineup for the upcoming Broadway at the
there you
Eccles
go.
season. It's out. Jeff, I know you love these shows.
Sure.
Yeah, the season kicks off with Mrs. Doubtfire in September. I've got
Love
to go
that.
see that.
Love that.
Yeah, up next is Funny Girl, Peter Pan, Kimberly Akimbo, The Book of Mormon, Les Miserables, Life of Pi, Wicked, and then capping off the season in June will be the show and Juliet.
And Juliet. It's not Romeo and Juliet. It's
Just
and
and
Juliet.
Juliet.
It's her story.
Yeah.
And she lives and goes on to have a wonderful life.
Wow.
Wow.
The current season ticket holders, they'll be automatically renewed, so Jeff, plan on it.
There you go.
Plan for the bill. The wait
They've
list
already
for,
taken my money.
for new season tickets is open right now. Single tickets will go on sale at a later date.
Boy,
It's
the
a good
lights
lineup.
of
Yeah,
Broadway.
that's pretty good.
Yeah, coming to Salt Lake City.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
Quickcast is up next.